Right, so Mastery Pack Guardian spoilers are starting to come out, and we have quite the interesting set of legs because they're not just Guardian; they're generic. Base of the Mountain. When this defends, banish any number of action cards from your hand, then add them to the chain link as defending cards. This card's defense is equal to the number of action cards defending on the active chain link. Right, so if you block with a action card. So even if it's from hand, not through the effect of Base of the Mountain then gets one block value, right? So yeah, it's very, very interesting. So the first thought would probably be three big effects, which are Dominate, Overpower, and Confidence. So Dominate, this cannot be defended by more than one card from hand. Overpower can't be defended by more than one action card, and Confidence can't be defended by more than two non-block cards. So there's a slight difference in wording there, but easy enough, right? We can go over to the Fab rules and actually take a look at the interaction, right? So starting off with Dominate, right? So Dominate is a static ability that means this cannot be defended by more than one card from hand. Hand being the keyword there. So if an attack with Dominate is currently defended by a card from hand, an additional card cannot be added as a defending card to the attack's chain link if that card comes from a player's hand. So through an effect like these boots, you can continue to add cards to an attack that is threatening Dominate, which makes sense because hopefully the Mastery Pack Guardian, well, it's Velda-centered, so it should feature a hefty amount of Dominate. So yeah, interesting effect. Obviously, it has no actual use because it's in the legendary slot, so you can't use it for crack shuffle play, but there's the sort of connection. Now, for Confidence and Overpower, we don't have Confidence just yet, but it reads essentially similar to Overpower, being that it is missing that from hand aspect. So if we then go to Overpower reads, this is a static ability that means this cannot be defended by more than one action card. So similarly, Confidence should be, this cannot be defended by more than two non-block cards, right? So if an attack with Overpower is currently defended by an action card, an additional action card cannot be added as a defending card to the attack's chain link, full stop, right? So from hand or through an effect like these boots, no extra cards can be added. So these are ineffective against Overpower and Confidence. So far, the only real draw is against Dominate, which is still a little bit niche, right? So what about some other theoretical uses? Well, I'd like these boots to really line up with two other sets of cards. Those cards being allies and items, right? These are both action cards that don't have any intrinsic block value, meaning these would be perfect synergy, right, with Base of the Mountain to play around the fact that they are dead cards on the defensive aspect, right? Now, as Gravy, you do have ways to obviously cycle allies on your opponent's turn, him being an instant ability, so that's not too horrendous, but items, right, would be fantastic. It would give them a decent chunk more playability if you had this static effect, but its value just isn't there, right? Plain and simple. It does not, in my mind, get past quick dodge flexes. So quick dodge flexes, defense reaction, pay one, add this to the active chain link as a defending card, it has base 2 block, right? So aside from it being a defense reaction, so if defense reactions cannot be played, then obviously they fall off. But generally speaking, right, Base of the Mountain and one item is 1 block value, right? Same item going into quick dodge flexes is 2 block plus floating resources to then reuse quick dodge flexes because it has that reusable aspect if your opponent then goes with a few more attacks. So that's golf right there, right? That little slight difference is where I don't feel there's enough going on with Base of the Mountains. It doesn't play around those big aspects, Confidence and Overpower, it only plays around Dominate, and it doesn't get that extra value from, in my opinion, the type of cards that it should be synergizing with, right? So I'd like to be able to, run more items in my deck in one of my goofy decks, and then have Base of the Mountain be the way to salvage that turn. But again, there's no rationale to taking it over quick dodge flexes, except in that singular aspect where, they play Command and Conquer or something that I can't block with a defense reaction, right? That's the only value to me. So I think I would have liked Base of the Mountain a little bit more if it had temper, and I know that probably opens it up for a lot of wacky fun, if you will, but I think in a more controlled environment, right, in a proper competitive game, there wouldn't be too many ways to actively, shirk its value, right? Yes, you could obviously dump your hand, and you could do that up to 4 times if it was temper, right? So you throw out 4 actions, then 3, then 2, then 1, but you're not really moving the needle. You're stalling, which is fine, but you're clearing your hand each time, essentially, right? And then you're also reducing the base value of block from Base of the Mountain and the number of cards you have to feed into it. So I do feel Temper or even Temper 2 or some new temper version of Guardwell, right? Although it'd still have to have that -1, so you could at least get, maybe 2 uses out of Base of the Mountains. But yeah, some reusable aspect to it, I think would have been really nice to, again, to have that highlight of working with allies or items. But yeah, I can understand, obviously, they don't want to give it too much value, but to me, it should have been a little bit more, down the middle of here's Quick Dodge Flex's use case, and here's Base of the Mountain, and again, just the block value there isn't there, right? You have to give 2 cards to have Base of the Mountain equal Quick Dodge Flexes, right? So even though you are blocking with more cards, again, it only matters to dominate, not overpower or confidence. You're not actually getting, in essence, any real extra value with Base of the Mountain, right? It is, in a sense, solely for dominate. So in saying that, I kind of would have liked it as a majestic, right, and usable in the Velda matchups, because I think it would have really shined there. But other than that, it is obviously good. It's just not great in the same aspect of how Quick Dodge Flexes have been performing. But to quickly sum up, right, for it to be worth 2 block, you have to be defending with 2 action cards, right? Not just 2 cards, 2 action cards. So that, to me, there's just not enough value going on, right? It being worth 1 block with 1 action card, sure, is okay, but there's, other equivalent pieces you can take. But we are getting to a point where most classes have access to a 2-block leg piece or something a bit more functional. So yeah, this just doesn't have enough value there for me. But, I can think of one deck where this is decent-ish, and that is, of course, my all-pump Marlin deck, right? Where essentially all the pumps being 2-block, with Base of the Mountain, they become 3-block, but again, doesn't have that intrinsic extra value, right? It's just making them average block, so to speak. But because it is an all-red deck, I can't get the same value out of Quick Dodge Flexes as a standard deck, if you will. So in that sense, they are a little bit nice in shoring up some of those cards. But yeah, I would have liked to see some reusable aspect or just a little bit extra base value, right? Even if it started at 1 block, so that it was a little bit worthwhile, right? Converting a 2 into a 4 would have been fantastic. But again, we can understand the rationale that maybe there are a few different shenanigans you could do with it, right? Which, speaking of which, viewer challenge. So the question of how much block can we get to? We've got a few different decks to go through, so we'll have a little bit of fun, and I will explain the plays, but these are all basically setups for our Base of the Mountains to get the maximum block value. I will also say that it's not really getting block value off of Base of the Mountain in the same aspect that it's getting block value off of just having a large hand and utilizing other cards. So, it's like a +7-ish, which is still obviously really good, but again, it just speaks to that base value that it's actually brings to the table. And it's playing around Dominate and adding 1 extra value per card, right? So, as Riptide, nice and simple, we're starting with 5 cards, so 1 card in Arsenal, and then our hand, right? So play here is super simple, right? Lead the charge into Potion of Ironhide, then we go 3 of a kind into 3 of a kind, meaning that we'll end up with 2 resources floating through our Blossom of Spring and the 1 from 3 of a kind. So then we can gold, so our hand will end up as 7 cards, and we'll have our Potion of Ironhide. So Potion of Ironhide, in this sense, is worth 7 block, because it adds 1 extra block to every attack action, right? And then all of our attack actions are 3, so that's a nice 21 value. And then with the boots themselves, that would add an extra 7, since we'd have 7 defending cards, meaning that our starting block here is 35, right? So that's a nice, decent benchmark, super simple. But again, you take out the boots, it's still 28. It's just stacking up a big hand with 3 of a kind. So then next up, we have Gravy, and we're basically just filter feeding through our Chart of the High Seas. So we have 3 of them, and we have our back alley break lines, right, in this controlled environment. So basically, off of the Chart of the High Seas, we end up floating 3 resources, and we get ourselves 6 action points, right? So I don't actually know why I have the Blossom. I just have a whole abundance of resources here. But we have Crown, so through the 3 extra resources, we can get that extra card, meaning we have our card in Arsenal and 5 cards in hand. And because of the action points, we can set them all up. So in this sense, right, we have 3 Ironhide. That's adding 3 block to every attack action card. We have our Sapphire Amulets, which we can use straight away, again, because of the abundance of action points. So we end up with our Down and Dirty to be played from the Arsenal. And again, Base of the Mountain just counts action cards defending. So you can block with Down and Dirty, then block with the boots, then sink your hand, right? So Down and Dirty would be 2 block. Then we have our set of 5 attack actions, all worth 3 apiece. So that'd be an extra 15 block. Then we have our Ironhides being 3 block apiece. Since we have 6, that means it's worth 18 block. And then the actual number of cards on the chain is 6. So our boots are also worth 6, right? So we have 20, 26, 41, plus 1 from the Platinum Amulet, which can hit whatever, right? So yeah, a nice 42 block off of Gravy Bones. And then lastly, we have Pleiades, although I will say this is probably, again, not really centering on the boots, but centering on the fact that we have Overcrowded and a whole different ways to create aura tokens. So, for instance, we have Confidence off of Pleiades herself through cheering. We have our Might through our gauntlets, Vigor through the chest, and Seismic Surge through the grandeur, right? So that's 4 tokens there, meaning our Overcrowdeds are blocking 6 apiece, which is definitely really, really nice, right? But in terms of the actual play, so obviously we break our gauntlets, we break our Vigor, then we're able to play Palm, right? Pitch the grandeur, then play Charm, get the Palm back, then play it again off of a Titanium Bubble, right? And rinse and repeat, and essentially it allows us to play the Lead the Charges for the Potions of Ironhide and stick the Down and Dirty in our arsenal, right? So we have 7 cards to block with, since we'll also be able to end the turn with our Helm of Ice and Pique, right? 2 Lead the Charges, 2 Ironhide, so they cancel each other out. We serve an action point, right? And then Palms again, you draw when it plays, and you draw when you get it back. So Thespian Charm, you draw, you play it again, and you just cycle, right? So yeah, if you haven't seen the video centering on that, go give it a watch, right? But other than that, in terms of the actual block count, so again, we have ourselves 4 tokens, Seismic Surge, Vigor, Might, and a Confidence, right? And then we're able to block with Down and Dirty and 6 cards from hand. I was very curious to see if there was a way for me to float a resource to be able to get the Toughness token as well, since that would count for Overcrowded. But Overcrowded and Dig In, right? Plus in the Confidence, you should be able to consistently get this to a 4 block, even, without the playing against Codex of Frailty. So just a blue 4 block seems really good to me, right, in Guardian, because yeah, Seismic Surge and something else, and you're done, right? But in terms of block, so Down and Dirty counts for 2, then we have the Dig In, so that's 9, each Overcrowded is 6 apiece, so that's 18 block, then we have our 2 sets of Ironhide, so they're 1 apiece per attack action card, so that brings them to 14, and then of course we have the boots themselves, which would be an extra 7. So if we add that all up, we have 25, 39, 41, 50, right? Big 50 block play as Pleiades, right? But yeah, none of it's really worthwhile because you will never need that much block on one attack, right? Even imagine Final Act, right, is 20-ish into 20-ish, so you still want it split up. So yeah, would be nice if Base of the Mountains, there was some more flexibility to it, but oh well, it is what it is. Let me know what you think. Are you happy with where it sits? Again, I think I'd like it just a little bit more comparable with Quick Dodge Flexes, right? Just Quick Dodge Flexes being able to be reused. Starting at that 2 block, I think I like it a little bit more, right? Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Yeah.